Well, welcome everybody to week 18, the final Teacher Dudes post game of the year. We've been off for about a month because Mark has been out of the country, from my understanding, although I don't know if he can legally say why he was out of the country.
No.
Or can you?
Well, yeah, I was out of the country. My wife is still out of the country.
She's still out?
Yeah.
Oh man, I last was about a week ago. I saw she popped a positive and was waiting to come back, but she's still there, huh?
Yeah, she can't fly home until she gets cleared.
Oh
So
man,
yeah, so I'm manning the Pendleton residence by myself here.
that's crazy. Well, is she feeling fine and everything? Just waiting for the right test or what?
Yeah. Well, she's feeling pretty good and stuff like that. She's just first she had to wait so many days to get a test, and then something because she had to change her flight out. It's pushed her back even further.
Oh, gotcha.
So yeah, she's toughing it out in the Dominican Republic, sitting in paradise while I'm at home.
It sounds rough.
Yeah, it is rough, and so I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for her right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. And before we get into this, I'm just looking for something off my desk if I can get it. You know me, I always need something to fidget with. But just breaking news coming across the Twitter feed is legend Bob Saget of Full House fame and America's Funniest Home Videos. He apparently passed away over last night.
Wow.
And so waiting to get more details on that, but TMZ reported it, which has always been a interesting source to say the least. But looks like other outlets are starting to pick up the news as well, so it might turn out to be legit, which is sad.
Yeah, first Betty, now Bob. I mean,
Yeah,
we can only take so much.
it's true. It is true. But looking at the Seahawks game today, they pull out a win in Arizona, 38-30. A game that didn't really mean anything for the Seahawks as far as any standings or playoffs or anything like that. But it did have a little bit of meaning for the Cardinals as they were looking to improve their playoff position, which they did not do because the Seahawks did come out strong, again winning 38-30. Mark, what are your quick takeaways on this game here?
I thought it was a good team effort. I thought offensively they played well. They seem to run the ball fairly well. Russell seemed to be in full command for the most part. I didn't see him, get too wild with any of his throws like he's been doing in the last few weeks. So
Yeah, only one interception today.
yeah, and he was pressured into that one. He shouldn't have thrown it, but
Right.
Some of the best quarterbacks uh, get intercepted sometimes. But yeah, I thought defensively, although we just couldn't stop 3rd and 1 apparently.
Which is normal.
Yeah, defensively, I thought we played fairly well. We were able to make our stops when we needed to. I mean, we held them to field goals for the most part. I think they only scored one. How many touchdowns did they have? 2 touchdowns, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And then the defensive one too.
Yeah, Russell looked good. it was interesting. I was looking at the stats right as you were talking there, and for him today looks kind of like his old self, which, of course, going into the off season, he's going to look his best, I guess you could say. But yeah.
Yeah, I think there was major concerns because, this year, Russell, it's a down year for Russell. And he, I think that injury really bothered him with his accuracy.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he became kind of really hesitant in some ways. And I think the last few games he's shown a lot more vintage Russell playing. And so that's a good sign because I don't want, one of those things is you don't want to go into the off season really with questions at quarterback.
Right.
But again, we will have questions at quarterback just because we don't know what this off season is going to look like and what's going to happen.
Right. And we're going to get to that. But
yeah,
really quickly, looking at Russell's stats for this season, I mean, honestly, if you look at the Seahawks as a whole this year, not that good. But looking at his individual stats, he had 65% completion percentage, which is right up there with his career numbers. His average for his career is right at 65. His yardage was down, but he did miss 3 games. And he had 22 touchdown passes to only 5 interceptions, which is kind of surprising compared to how, I thought he played this year. I thought he threw, 25 interceptions, but it's kind of surprising to see he only threw 5. And all of his numbers are actually right on average for what he's done the past 10 years. But there's been a lot of other factors that have played into things. And, it's going to be interesting looking into the offseason where he goes from here. But quickly, before we really dive into some of these things, the NFC playoff picture has been set. So this is final according to the one that I'm looking at right here is from The Athletic. Green Bay is going to get the number 1 seed, which is not a surprise. The 2 seed is going to Tampa Bay, who will take on the 7 seed Philadelphia Eagles. So they got in. The 3 seed is the Cowboys, who will take on the 49ers in that classic 49er Cowboy matchup in the playoffs. And then the 4-5 seed, so the 4 seed is going to go to the Rams, and the 5 seed to the Cardinals. So if I'm reading these things right, the only difference that this really made for the Cardinals is instead of playing the Rams, they would have been playing the 49ers. Because I think they would have gone in as the 3 seed.
They would have, because they would have won the division.
Right.
So they would have taken the 3. Well, how many wins does Tampa have?
Well, let's see. So playoff seedings. So the Cardinals were 11-6. Tampa was 13-4. So they're the 2 seed. So I think they would have got either the 3 or the 4 seed.
Yeah, either way. So the difference is that they got to start, though. They got to start on the road,
Right.
That's, they don't get that home playoff game.
Well, although according to this, they are at home. Although that doesn't make sense. No, they have them backwards. So, the Rams are at home and the Cardinals. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so the Rams. So it's going to be a repeat of Rams and Cardinals, you said?
Yeah, yep. Which could be a fun game to watch, especially with the way that Cooper Kupp's been playing.
Yeah.
He had another stupid good game today. And, for a kid coming out of Eastern Washington, he's lighting it up. And then, looking at the other side in the AFC, we have a very, very interesting scenario that has unfolded. And going into this, I thought it was just an absolute joke that this would happen, because the only way that this scenario could potentially happen would be if the Colts lose to Jacksonville in Jacksonville week 18. Well, guess what? They lost. So because of that, we have a I don't even know how many team tie this is. Or no, yeah, it's a three team tie. So right now, the Steelers are in the playoffs in the AFC.
Yeah.
Regardless of who wins the Chargers-Raiders game.
Yeah.
So they are in no matter what, regardless who wins that game. However, if the Chargers and Raiders tie, if that happens, then the Chargers and Raiders are in the playoffs and the Steelers are at home watching.
So, and from what I understand is with the Chargers and Raiders, whoever loses is out, right?
Yes.
So, based off of that scenario, each team, if they both agreed to tie, they would both make it into the playoffs.
Yes. Which
that is,
I don't know how you go about it, because isn't there that old philosophy of the prisoners debate or something like that, where they agree to doing something like that, but then in the end, one of the two is like, oh, well, forget this, I'm gonna screw him over in the end. And then if it's a crazy scenario.
Yeah, I don't see them like purposely trying to do that, like
right,
just basically doing nothing for the whole game. I mean, they could just sit there and take knees the whole time and just run out the clock and end with a 0-0 tie. But so we would break a couple records there. We'd probably have our first 0-0 tie, right, ever.
Yep.
We would probably have the first game where there was no yards ever,
because it'd be negative on both sides.
Yeah, no, it'd be negative yards on both directions. Maybe punting yards, but those,
But would they even punt? Or would they just do another kneel down?
I don't know. Yeah, so that'd be crazy. If I was a fan who bought tickets to that game and that went down,
oh man,
I don't know if I'd be mad or just like, all right.
It would be hilarious.
It would get boring after a while, but it would also be, you'd be like, I was at that game that
right.
It just ended in a 0-0 tie and no one did anything.
And could you imagine if they were running some sort of promotion where the beer price was like the price of the amount of rushing yards the opposing quarterback had or something like that?
Yeah, or if they got a free taco for every touchdown they scored, I'd be upset.
Well, yeah, I'd be legit mad at that one. But quickly, let's go through the highlights that I was able to get on this one here, as we got some people chiming in, and I don't know if this is legit or not. It might be an imposter, but apparently your wife is saying hi from afar.
From the DR. Look at, she's even bragging with her picture there.
I know
she's sitting on the beach.
Just laughing at you.
Yeah, and I'm home dealing with my children and I came home and there was a water leak in my house.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I'm dealing with that and having to tear out have to have people tear out drywall and everything else. Just ridiculous. All right, go to the stats.
Brutal.
Go to the stats.
All right, let's look at the highlights here. But before I lose this tweet as it goes down, apparently Jay Glazer, who was going through his expected coaching moves in the offseason with his inside information, went through everything that he expected to happen, but did not mention Pete Carroll or the Seahawks at all. And he's pretty connected with the Seahawks from my understanding. So that's interesting little tidbit as if we can foreshadow the upcoming conversation. But really quickly, the game started off on this play here. I wasn't able to see it live because I was scrambling to get a way to watch the game. But this was apparently the first play of the game.
Under pressure, lost the football, scooped up the other way by Zach Allen, and the Cardinals on fire on defense to start the game.
Well, at that point there, I turned to Brandy and was like, well, it's already 7-0, so I don't really care. And then, like, not even, 3-4 plays later, this happened.
Wilson lofts it up there. Tyler Lockett got loose. And Tyler Lockett will take it in. What a response by Seattle.
And how is Lockett always just open?
I was just about to say that. Like, how is he always wide open? Like, on these scramble drills, like, there's like 5 or 6. I don't even know how he finds the openings. Like, every single time Wilson throws in his direction deep.
Yeah. He's like a ninja.
Yeah, he just finds that soft spot.
Yeah, it's nuts. But that was the first of, I believe, 2 touchdowns, because here is his second touchdown.
First and goal, Wilson rolling right, and he's able to complete it to Lockett again.
And, like we were saying, that's the Wilson of old, just throwing it to where only Lockett could get it. Just threading that needle. And then later on, Freddie Swain comes back with this touchdown here, where, again, just absolute wide open.
Double stacks for receivers on both sides for Wilson. And a breakout wide open. Freddie Swain is in for the touchdown.
In as much criticism as Russell's got the past couple years, name another quarterback that can do that. In those 3 plays that we saw, the 2 Lock and that Swain one, to where it's just bang, bang, gone.
I mean,
and make it look others.
Good. There's a couple others, but,
name
you got
one.
Mahomes, and you got Rodgers, and you got...
They're nothing.
I mean, they're nothing.
I had no comeback there.
No, but Wilson does, if you go by pure talent and accuracy, I don't think there's not too many more accurate throwers than Wilson in the league. If he's going to throw the ball, and he has time to set up, it's usually on money every single time. And I can always, before I even see the play down the field, when Wilson has time and he throws the ball, I'm like, oh, it's completion.
Oh yeah, especially when he has that lovely arc.
Yeah,
on those deep balls. And really quickly, we got an update from the Dominican Republic. Heather just ate a delicious French dinner that included creme brulee. I'm going to go have a hot dog here in a few minutes.
So we're staying at her dad's house down there, and he's within walking distance of the beach. And there's like these French restaurants. Well, there's a lot of French restaurants all around, but there's some on the beach and stuff like that. And so tough time, I guess.
That's just rude. That is just rude.
I had a couple cookies and some leftover garlic bread for lunch. I mean,
wow, sounds like a good legit lunch.
Yeah.
And speaking of craziness, earlier in the year we saw that crazy double punt by the Seahawks, right?
Yeah.
With Michael Dixon. Well, we saw a fake punt, or the punter dropped the ball or something. I don't even know. Let's just watch.
That inside pressure by Dunlap, and he gets the sack.
Oh, misfire. Travis Homer got in on Andy Lee, and then Homer made the play to get the ball loose. It's recovered by...
Now, looking at the replay, it looked like their punter he saw that it was going to get blocked, and he, instead of actually punting it, just dropped it and was hoping to pick it back up and keep going. I don't even know.
Why drop it, though? Like,
why not just hold on to it?
Well, I guess if he's right when he was swinging, but his leg, I don't know. It was weird. Like, I thought he could get that ball off, and then secondly, I thought he could kick it off again. He picked it up, and he could have kicked it again, but he decided to try to run a little bit and got nailed. So, yeah, he's no Michael Dixon. That's all I'm saying.
No, who got snubbed from the Pro Bowl for some reason.
He's always snubbed.
Well, yeah. And then we had, speaking of Russell Wilson, going back to his old days, we had a Russell Wilson TD here.
Wilson gets the snap. Under pressure. Escaping. Running. Lunging in for the touchdown. And the Seahawks take the lead.
And then later in the game, we had the proverbial icing on the cake with this Rashad Penny touchdown.
Penny has the hole, and he breaks free. Rashad Penny with a house call. 62-yard strike.
So those are the highlights of the game. And looking over the stats here, the interesting thing that really stood out to me on this was the fact that the Seahawks were able to control the ball for a good majority of the game, and they didn't give up like we've seen, them do in so many times in the past, where you just see them get to a point and they're like, okay, I'm done. There's just no way I'm going to do anything. And
how good were they on third downs?
Third down, they were 8 of 12.
See, that's the difference, I think.
Right. And
they've been
the
awful
stat.
third down team this year, and they were converting a lot of their third downs, and so that just, when you do that, this team can be very dangerous offensively.
Oh yeah, and which one stat I'm going to look towards, and that's the time of possession. And looking at it, the Seahawks had the ball for only 25 minutes. And the Cardinals 35. So they didn't hold on to the ball as long as I would like, but what you're saying there with converting those third downs is huge.
Well, and I think part of that was the Cardinals had a couple really long drives. Like, what was it? That 19-play drive that ended in a field goal. Like, they were just converting third down, third and one. And so
just milking it.
They took a lot of time off the clock during that drive, and I think they had another one kind of similar. So,
yeah, no, and that was big. And the passing, Seahawks had 229 compared to 187 for the Cardinals, which is actually kind of surprising that we were able to hold them to only that. But rushing, we had 202 to 118 yards, and on a singular person. So Rashad Penny had 23 carries for 190 yards and 1 touchdown in this game. And I'm trying to look for it. I saved the picture here if I can find my right folder. I got to move my laptop. There it is. This is amateur hour going on here.
I thought you were a professional. I expected for myself, but not
Hey,
you.
I tried. But per ESPN stats, Rashad Penny joined Sean Alexander as the only players in Seahawks history with 130 yards rushing in 3 straight games. So that's kind of an interesting little stat there. I mean, Sean Alexander was great in his heyday for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're talking they had, Chris Warren, Ricky Waters back when he was, on the tail end of his career, but was still, playing at a high level. And then for Penny to be included in that is kind of impressive.
You forget Marshawn Lynch.
Who?
Never mind. I don't think you know him.
No,
anyway.
never heard of him. No. No, yeah, Lynch he was fun to watch though. he was a blast. But yeah, so we are ending the season. The Seahawks are at 7-10, last place in the NFC West by quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of disappointing games this year, disappointing players, but there was some bright spots of the team. And oddly enough, my number one bright spot on this team was actually going to be Rashad Penny. Even though it's technically, we could say, garbage time. But a bright spot, and I'm talking the whole team, but rushing, as sad as this is, he had the most rushing yards of the whole team.
Yeah, and I mean he went on a tear the last 4 or 5 games here of the year. Finally kind of got his chance to shine and was healthy, and that was the biggest thing. I think we all know that Rashad Penny has talent. He's a big guy. He's fast. He has a lot of traits that would make him a very good running back. But he just hasn't stayed healthy in his career. And
right.
You gotta the NFL is littered with those types of players who have all the talent in the world, and they got and when they are healthy, they do amazing things, but they just can't stay healthy. I mean, he kind of reminds me a little bit of remember Procise, the running back, who was again another guy who was, when he was playing and he was healthy, he flashed a lot. Kind of a dual running back, wide receiver type of guy who was very talented. But you know what? I think, the question is, do Seattle bring him back? And I think they probably would, but I don't know if they're willing to pay the price.
Well, and what price does he honestly get to set for himself? I mean, like you said, he's been injured. He only played in 9 games this year. Over his career, let's see here if I can find it. There we go. Over his career, so 4 seasons, he's only rushed for 1,300 yards, and 600 of them came this year.
Yeah.
In those last, 5 games, basically. So does he command the starting NFL running back type money? I'm going to say no.
No.
But does he command a little bit more based on what he's shown when he is healthy and he's got the team doing well around him? Yeah.
If Seattle, I would be okay bringing him back on something like $1.5 million, something a little bit above league average.
Yeah.
A little bit above veteran minimum.
Yeah.
but I would not break the bank. I would not be paying him 3, 4, 5 mil a year. You just don't know what you're going to get out of him if he's going to stay healthy. Maybe you do something minimum with a lot of incentives put in there, and that might be enough to entice him. But you're gonna. I could see some team that has a lot of cash say, "Oh, you know what? Let's throw 3 or 4 mil at this guy," and he could be gone,
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know if his work this year is big enough for him to warrant a huge contract. I don't think it will be.
No, and I do like the idea of having the incentive-laced contract. I think that's a really good idea. Give him a good, $1.5 million base salary, and then, every touchdown or every 5 or, however he gets an extra, 500,000 or something.
Yeah.
Give him those incentives. And they mentioned it during the broadcast, and I've heard this a few times listening to Seattle sports media over the past couple weeks. One of the unsung, factors into Penny's rise has been Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy because he came in, he played in one game, got one touchdown, and then he hurt his lower back since and didn't play again. But they're saying that his leadership and his ability to mentor the young running backs is invaluable, and that was well worth signing him in this season.
Yeah, I think that was a smart move. He didn't cost much to come in, and I think he at the time we were hurting so bad with our running back depth. I don't think it really hurt.
Right.
But hopefully, he did teach Pennies a little bit. I mean, it's weird. Like running backs are kind of odd because typically they're the position that tends to have the most success right off the bat, and you don't see a lot of running backs start kicking in things and start improving in their third or fourth year.
Yeah.
It's usually they show flat right off the bat that they're good, and then and they might get a little bit better, but it doesn't take long for them to show their complete potential.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of the situation.
We have some breaking news here as we're waiting for Pete Carroll to do his press conference. But according to Reddit CFB, the Chargers will be starting Joey Bosa at quarterback, confirming there will be no kneeling. So take that for what it's worth, but that's breaking news. It just came across the Twitter feed.
I don't know about that, but
but it would be funny.
Yeah.
And Pete Carroll is coming up to the podium right now, so I'm going to be watching for his quotes. But quick run around the league and scores. The Browns took down the Bengals 21-16. The Lions took down the Packers 37-30. Vikings over the Bears 31-17. For the last time ever, I hope that I'll ever have to say this, the Washington football team over the Giants 22-7. They are rumored to be the Washington Commodores or Commanders or something like that.
I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah, they have some apparent leaks that came out. Jaguars over the Colts, which we mentioned earlier, 26-11. Steelers won in order to keep their playoffs alive, 16-13 over the Ravens. Titans sealed up the number 1 spot, 28-25 over the Texans. Saints over the Falcons 30-20. Bills over the Jets 27-10. 49ers over the Rams 27-24 in overtime. The Dolphins over the Patriots 33-24. Buccaneers over the Panthers 41-17. And then again, the Seahawks over the Cardinals 38-30. Yesterday's games, Chiefs are over the Broncos 28-24, and then the Cowboys 51-26 over the Eagles. And Pete Carroll came out saying that football's a fun game. It's really, really rewarding to be able to see a team finish like this despite being eliminated from the playoffs. So he's in good mood right now. So we're going to continue to watch that as we talk here. So Mark, one of the other things that we were looking at talking about, we have this conundrum of all these team moves that could potentially happen. And one of them that we put on here was Quandre Diggs.
Yeah.
Who late in this game went down with an apparent leg injury. They didn't really say much what it was, but it didn't look great according to what they said. I couldn't find a good video of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the players were visibly upset. So let's just start there with Diggs. Let's assume he is healthy going into next season. Do we bring him back?
Well, if he's healthy, yeah. I think he showed that he plays that free safety position really well. He was going to get paid a lot of money. That would be the only issue is, are they willing to, they're already paying Jamal Adams so much money at safety. Do they want to pay another safety a bunch of money? Or do they want to put their money elsewhere in the team? Honestly, I think this kind of helps Seattle retain him because, if this is a injury that's pretty significant, I think he's not gonna be able to command more than a 1-year deal as it is. So you could see him potentially, just do a 1-year deal with Seattle and then come back and try it again, depending on what the injury is. If it's something that's going to keep him out longer, then yeah, it's going to be more challenging. But I do think he should be back. I think he played well enough. He led the team in interceptions. I think he really did a good job this year.
And what they're saying about him, Pete Carroll said just now that he has a dislocated ankle, and he'll be treated there in Phoenix. And it says Tyler Lockett will stay here with him. Now, here's what's interesting about this quote here is he did say, and we can read into this as much as we want to, but he says he'll be back for next season. So, again, read into that what you may, but that's the quote from Pete Carroll.
He'll be back playing or be back with Seattle?
It says he'll be back. That's all it says.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens there. But
read into it as you may.
I think he is definitely someone that I'd be interested in bringing back, but I think one of the things that we had to kind of think about, though, is where are we going to put our resources financially? The teams that tend to be the most successful put their resources in the trenches, offensive and defensive line. And if we pay Jamal Adams $18 million, and then we pay Quandre Diggs another $15 million, that's a lot of money for safeties, Yeah.
Well, and here's more about Quandre Diggs. This just came. So there was that first one there that he said about the dislocated ankle, but then he added on to it saying that he broke his fibula. So that's more on, so I guess he said the first thing and then, he got the more out there. So I think that's a more significant injury. It says that, there's some months here for recovery, but he'll get back for the season next year. So that's the other side of it.
A broken fibula isn't the worst thing. If it was major
No.
ligament damage, that would be a far worse thing than just a broken bone, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And then looking at this, I kind of lumped these into the second tier players for us. The next one on this list was Reed. Would you bring back him for safety?
Reed? DJ Reed?
Yeah.
I'd bring him back for a corner.
For corner?
Yeah.
But so you'd bring him back. You're kind of breaking up there.
Yeah, I thought he played really well this year for a cornerback. So I would definitely bring back Reed. I think for the most part, I thought the defensive backs played really well this year. Especially down the stretch. Like I said, you didn't see them get beat deep, and Reed played the run well, and I think he really deserved. Even though he's on the smaller side, I think he deserved to earn his job at that starting corner.
Yeah.
Is he a number one? Is he a number one corner? Probably not, but I wouldn't pay him number one money.
Right. But he did well.
He did well.
Let's see here. This breaking news here from Greg Bell saying the question was to Pete Carroll, any concern you won't be back coaching the Seahawks in 2022? Pete Carroll said, quote, "No, I'm in great shape." So, I mean, you again, all this stuff, take it for what you want.
Yeah, he's going to say that because
right.
I think ultimately it's going to come down to Jody Allen and what she believes.
Right. And then the third one here, because we're going to get into much more of Pete Carroll here in a little bit. The third one here is Will Dissly, who at times has shown he can be a fantastic tight end, but at times he's struggled with not only just playing the game, but also with injury. So if it were me, I would bring him back because I do think he has a lot of potential. I don't think he's going to have a big price tag. However, with the emergence of a player like, Mark Andrews and Baltimore, the tight end is getting to be an expensive position. So what are your thoughts on Will Dissly?
Yeah, Dissly, I'd bring him back as a depth piece, but I'm not going to bring him back more than just minimum salary. He's useful, but he's definitely, and I don't think he's going to really demand a whole lot anyways. I could see him back, for under $1 million. I am interested to see what they do with Everett because he only signed a 1-year deal with Seattle, and I thought he had some good moments, but then he had some not so great moments, like he dropping touchdowns.
Yeah, he did that today, even.
Yeah.
Wide open touchdown.
Yeah. So he, I think he played fairly well. I wouldn't mind bringing Everett back. Again, I'm not going to break the bank for him. But I think he's definitely, what else are you going to invest in? I don't know who else is available for tight ends in the free agent market. Maybe some older veterans, but nothing. I think the draft is actually pretty solid with tight ends this year. So I could see Seattle be drafting a tight end this year. See what they have. But I wouldn't overpay again for these. types of players.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just getting the next set things up here. So the next, this is kind of like the bigger, the meatier chunk here. So bringing back Bobby Wagner, DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson, and then Pete Carroll. If I am thinking and dreaming, in all of them are in their prime, you absolutely have to bring them all back. There's no way you don't. However, seeing how the defense played today without Wagner, it kind of made me think a little bit. Granted, we do still have him under contract for another 1 or 2 years, and it's a pretty hefty tag right now. But he has lost a step, but he's still one of the elite linebackers. And then we look at DK, who, for whatever reason, I honestly cannot figure out why he was not getting targets the way that, he honestly should have been. Was it a riff with him and Russell? Was it just, whatever? He's publicly said that he wants to be back in Seattle, and he is a free agent after this year.
Not this year,
do we look at bringing the following year? I thought it was this year. I could be wrong.
He has one more year on his deal.
Oh, is it a team option that they have for this one?
Well, he was a second rounder, and I don't remember. But what is this? Is this his third year or second year?
Third year.
Third year. And usually they have the rookie deals are 4-year deals. So
right. So I'll have to.
He still probably has one more year left on his deal, I think. But
I'll have to look.
He is in line. If they choose to want to extend him, they can. They typically, if they've operated in the past, they've always kind of, right before their final year, they tend to offer an extension if they want to keep someone. But I agree with you. I think Wagner will probably, as much as I love Wagner, I think it's time to move on from him. You can cut him and save a lot of cap money that way, because most of whatever that's left on his contract is not guaranteed. There is some, but a lot of it's not guaranteed. So that's, that could save you anywhere from $15 to $20 million. And I think you look at Brooks and you say, okay, he more than can adequately do what Wagner can do at this moment. Even Barton played fairly well today, although Barton, I think, is again a guy I don't know if he'll be back if this is last year or not. But I do think I think you can draft a linebacker too. I'm not going to put a whole lot of money into linebackers,
Right.
Wagner, I think, you just need to move on. He's going to be a future Seahawk. He's going to be a Hall of Fame, enshrined in the Seahawk Hall of Fame. He's going to be in Canton. But sometimes you just got to move on.
Yeah, I'm looking here. So Bobby Wagner is a free agent next year, as is DK. So you're correct there. Barton is next year, and then Puna Ford and Carlos Dunlap are the big ones for next year. The one that I didn't mention for this year because I didn't even think about it was Dwayne Brown is going to be a free agent at the end of this year.
Yeah. So with Dwayne Brown, I would probably offer him a 1-year deal. I wouldn't offer him more than a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
He's getting up there in age. I kind of feel like he's right in there with some of these older tackles that kind of do year by year deals, and I think that's kind of how he's going to roll. And the fact is, Snell I think is up too on the other side, so you're going to have to have some sort of tackle. Bring back some sort of tackle,
Yeah. Shell is him
or
and
Shell,
Brown.
not
Yeah.
Snell.
Yeah.
At least need to bring back. I think you need to bring back Brown and then let Shell go. Here, here's something I kind of actually, and I don't know if people are gonna, get mad at me or not for this, but
Well, I'll put your phone number up on the screen.
all right, okay. I think you trade DK.
Trade DK for. What are your thoughts behind this?
I think DK, like today, he was targeted, I think, like 11 or 12 times. He only had 4 or 5 catches. He doesn't get open like Lockett does,
Right.
He's a physical beast, but I think I don't see him as a guy who is absolutely necessary. I mean, he's a luxury to have, but I don't see him. I wouldn't invest, 20, because it's going to cost 20 plus million to retain him.
Oh yeah.
And I think there are better places to invest that money. And I really think you could probably get a couple first rounders for him. I don't. There's probably some team that's starving for a good wide receiver that, And if we get, I think what we got to do is, if we do choose to keep Russell, then I think you invest in the line.
Yep.
And you invest in both defense and offensive lines, and just do kind of what the Green Bay's done. They've invested in their lines, and they really haven't gone out and spent a ton of money on wide receivers or anything like that.
Well, and look at what the Patriots have done for years.
Mm-hmm.
They're just getting the Cooper Cups. They're getting these run of the mill players, but because their quarterback has protection, they have time to throw. They have time to get open. They're scrappy.
Yeah. So yeah, I would trade DK. Not that I don't think he's talented, not that I don't think he can help the team. I just think that Seattle needs to do a whole Bill Belichick type of thing, trade their player a year before they're about to get paid, and trade him for a lot, and just say, okay, we got Lockett, for a few more years. We just drafted Eskridge this last year. We didn't really see much of him this year.
No, he's got a ton of talent though.
Yeah, we got Swain. And we could draft another wide receiver,
or even get one, for cheap on the, free agent wire.
Oh yeah, you could take a look, like, who is the leading receiver for the Cardinals? I think it was AJ Green. Like
AJ Green, yeah.
You could get someone as that a veteran.
Actually, sorry, Christian Kirk.
Kirk was? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Christian Kirk.
But there's guys out there. There's wide receivers out there that you could fill in, starting wide receivers. Yes, they're not going to be as physical or explosive as DK, but we already have our deep target. We got Lockett, and
we need a possession receiver.
Well, I mean, when you look at what's happened this year, is DK was not getting behind people like he did last year, and because they were playing they're playing two safeties high, against Seattle, and taking away those, Lockett could kind of get behind, but DK was not getting behind, and so what you saw him later on in the season, they're moving him inside, and they're playing him out of the slot a lot now, and I don't want to pay $20 million for a slot receiver.
No, it doesn't even make sense.
As talented as he is, And sometimes I felt like they forced the ball to him,
Yeah,
like,
and that was apparent. Sorry, with a lot of Russell's miscues
yeah,
this year, where he's looking somewhere, throws that he would normally make, and he would overthrow, he would make bad decisions, and in a couple of the games that we talked about on here, where he's trying to force it in one way, but someone's wide open on the other side,
yeah,
but because he was so dead set. Yeah, and looking at the stats this year, Tyler Lockett had 1,077 yards receiving, and DK had 909.
yeah.
So it's not that much of a difference between the two. However, there is a giant drop off to the third place on the team, which is Gerald Everett with 458.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we definitely need a number 3 receiver for sure. Let's just say we are going to keep DK. We need a solid number 3, someone that we can count on.
Well, that was the idea. Eskridge would be that person, but
right.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Like,
he got hurt.
He got hurt, but then when he was healthy, I don't know. He just wasn't as effective as I thought he could be. But
well, and maybe, I think a lot of
he's a rookie.
Yeah, and a lot of the issue had been the running game because, the Seahawks have been a team that you use the running game to set up the pass, which I know that's, cliche, but it's true. And a lot of teams now are using the passing game to set up the run. But without a running attack, we haven't been able to pass the ball. And you've seen the past couple games what we can do when we do have a solid running game. Mm-hmm. And the other free agents here that I'm seeing for this year, Gerald Everett, we talked about. Sidney Jones, who I think we could bring back for a veteran minimum, if not a little bit more. And, Ryan Neal is one, Rasheem Green, and, a couple more here and there. But the one that really sticks out to me that we haven't mentioned is Geno Smith. Is he one that we want to bring back?
No.
Or, considering everything that he did and how he willed the team back and led them to victories? Oh, wait. Am I thinking the wrong guy?
Yeah, I think so. I don't.
Yeah, no, I would not bring back Geno Smith unless there is absolutely no other option available in the league.
Yeah.
I'm glad he was able to. I'm glad he could fill in, but I'm sure Matt Flynn is available somewhere, right?
Sure. You could.
Speaking of Matt Flynn, did you see his comment the other day? Someone on either Reddit or Twitter said something like, "Hey, remember that time the Seahawks gave you a bunch of money for doing nothing?" And he actually responded to the guy and said, "Yeah, that was awesome." Like, yeah, it sums it up. But
well, I feel bad for him. I mean, he didn't play bad when he was in the preseason. I thought he played okay.
Yeah,
but Russell just took the job.
Right.
But
that said, we're running out of time here. Granted, we have all the time in the world, but I can feel the glare coming from the other room, even though the door's shut. But let's talk briefly about the big two. And these are the ones that a lot of people have hinted at. There's been nothing. Both have been saying, the right words that they're, they want to stay. This is where they want to be. They want to build. And that's, Russell and Coach Carroll. Now, I'm going to be honest. I think Russell Wilson has too much invested in the Seahawks and the city of Seattle. I think the city of Seattle has too much invested in Russell to let him go. There's been a few words here and there that, he wants to eventually get ownership, at least part owner of the Seahawks kind of a thing, going that route. And he's always had a good relationship with the Seahawks. I mean, there's been those public issues where he's been disgruntled, and honestly, rightfully so. And then you got Pete Carroll, who's done nothing but win, who's done nothing but be everything that he is to revitalize and bring the Seahawks their first Super Bowl. So as odd as it sounds, I don't think this decision is going to be up to the Seahawks at all. I think this decision is going to come from Russell himself, Pete himself, or a combo of both. I think that they've both earned the right to stay or leave on their own terms. And in a perfect world, I do think Carroll has lost a proverbial step. Perfect world, I can see Russell staying and then Pete retiring on his terms and, staying on as kind of like an advisor, whatever you want to say. And we bring in somebody like Dan Quinn, who, was a huge part to the Seahawks Super Bowl win. And, it goes that route. I don't see the Seahawks trading Russell unless Russell flat out publicly comes out and says, I want out. And I don't see the Seahawks firing Pete Carroll at all unless there's some huge scandal that happens. So going into next year, I think they're both going to be back. As much as it's going to frustrate and anger some people. But then I sit on the other side of who else are we going to get?
Well, there is, I've read a couple things. One, as far as quarterbacks, there's really no one. I mean, unless you want a Deshaun Watson, but that has some ugliness to it.
Too much baggage.
So if you trade Russell, you're going to have to be willing to go a year without a decent running quarterback and hopefully find someone in the draft. Later on, and the draft is awful this year for quarterbacks. So, right. I would that you're going to have to take a step back if that's the case. If you do get rid of Pete Carroll, I think there's some options there. I heard that Sean Payton might be looking to move out.
Yeah, but what value would he bring?
He's an offensive
to
guy.
The Seahawks.
He's an offensive guy, and Wilson has always wanted to go to the Saints because of Sean Payton's mind. I think that would be a really good fit, or it would appease Russell.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, when he said he didn't want to be traded, but he wouldn't mind being traded too. The Saints are one of those.
Yeah.
So he obviously has. And he he loved Drew Brees, he looked up to Drew Brees.
Yep.
And so I think he thinks that Peyton can do something similar with him that he did with Drew Brees,
Yeah.
The Saints, they might be ready to move on. They haven't exactly had a whole lot of success in a very long time as far as playoff success. So maybe, it's time for Peyton to go. Seattle could also trade for Peyton.
Pull who was that? The Buccaneers that traded for John Gruden from the Raiders at the time?
Yeah. Something like that. So that's an option, but the first thing obviously is Pete would have to be let go. And I don't know if Pete is gonna step down on his own, but it might be something where he meets with the ownership and they said, we're going to make a change. You can step down on your own. And that kind of ends that whole situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. Schneider probably wouldn't be back either. He hasn't had exactly the best drafts of late.
No.
So I think you would get a new GM. I don't know who you'd get for GM, but someone like that. I could see Peyton. I could see a Dan Quinn. The only thing about Dan Quinn is he's a defensive guy.
Right.
So if you're going to bring in Dan Quinn, you better have some sort of really good offensive coordinator coming in with him that Russell's going to be on board with,
Yeah.
Because I think more or less Russell wants an offensive-minded coach, and Pete.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. So we've had all these years of he's known nothing but defensive-minded Pete Carroll. So I think it'd be best, to find someone more with the offensive guy, maybe a Doug Peterson.
Yeah, Peterson. That's an interesting thought. What if it was something where you have like bring in someone like Peterson or Sean Payton, but you also bring in a Dan Quinn, and Pete Carroll goes to GM?
I wouldn't want that. I don't think.
Do you think he couldn't keep his hands out of it?
Yeah, I think Carroll is too much of a control guy that he left USC because he wanted more control.
Right.
And Seattle offered him, not only the coaching position, but the whatever. Is he president?
Yeah, team president.
So he has the control. The only one above him is Jody Allen,
Right.
And so he wanted that, and I don't think he would be able to sit back and be president and not try to get involved in something else,
Yeah.
And knowing him, he'd be in charge of hiring coaches and a head coach, and you'll probably find some old school guy that has his philosophy.
Well, only if it's Buddy Phillips. Bring back some real old school coaches.
Maybe Parcells.
Bill. That would be great. But yeah, so to wrap things up here, what are your final thoughts on the 2021 Seattle Seahawks, the team that went honestly, they were underwhelming and didn't do what they should have, but had a decent enough push towards the end to make it interesting, but ended up the season at 7-10.
I think it's a make or break year. You either go all in or you make big changes. And I don't think there's enough talent on this team to go all in. So I think you got to make big changes.
So Mark is saying big changes.
Whatever.
And I am torn because I am such a go with the status quo kind of guy on some things that I don't like a whole lot of big changes. But then a friend, recently was talking about how, sometimes the hardest decisions end up being the most fruitful. And the whole, analogy of the road less traveled, that kind of stuff. So I'm torn. But I do think that let's just say if the right players are able to come back, the ones that have had a underperforming year, an injury-ridden year, if they come back and are able to play the way that we know that they're going to play, I'm fine keeping status quo. However, one thing that we've seen year in, year out, you got to make a big splash somewhere in some way to bring back some excitement. I mean, I've seen the crowd at Lumen Field now was the worst I've ever seen it on TV. I've never seen it that empty. We got to do something to bring the fans back, because as much as people don't think that the fans make a difference, they make all the difference in Seattle. So I'm gonna lean with you. They need to make a big splash, whatever that looks like. Just don't burn the fan base in the process. And so that's where I'm gonna lean. That's gonna be my politically correct version. But with that, this will be our last official post game of the season. Maybe perhaps we'll come back during the playoffs and discuss some things. Maybe the championship game weekend going into the Pro Bowl and the Super Bowl, unless we want to have a Pro Bowl discussion.
I'm tempted. I am tempted.
Where we're discussing the number of tackles that are legit tackles in a game. But no, it's been fun, Mark. I'm looking forward to what we can do with this moving forward, because it is fun. Fun for me, fun to be able to talk. And, as we look forward to this year and restarting the actual Teacher Dudes podcast and stuff, looking forward to that. So last thing, now that we pretty much have the playoff field set, what is your prediction for the Super Bowl and who wins?
I think this is the year that Aaron Rodgers gets back to the Super Bowl. And I think I'm going to take a dark horse. Tennessee. He beats Tennessee.
So you're saying Green Bay over the Titans?
Yeah.
And I am going to say that Tom Brady will be back in the Super Bowl. But this year they are going to lose to Kermit the Frog, a.k.a. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So we're going to get a repeat. As much as I would love to see the Bills in the Super Bowl, though, because that would be amazing to see the Bills Mafia going nuts. And what's most likely going to be in Texas because of all the COVID garbage, where it's going to get moved out of L.A. And so... But Mark, that's going to do it for us, and it's going to do it for the 2021 season. Thanks for joining. It's been a fun ride. Hopefully your wife will get back. Well, maybe, hopefully. I don't know. Maybe you're enjoying time without your wife in town. So best of luck with all of that, and we will talk with you later. And if you've been watching, thanks for joining us. And we will talk to you on an upcoming episode of the Teacher Dudes.